guys, welcome back. We are on lesson 17 of Wit and Wisdom. Our essential question is, what can we discover about animals' unique features? Remember, we've been talking about features and what features are. So for lesson 17 today, our focus question is, how do seahorses use their unique features? And our content framing question is, what is happening in Seahorse, the shyest fish in the sea? So in this lesson, we are going to be practicing our fluency passage, focusing on accuracy and preparation for our informal fluency later on. And this lesson is going to build on our work from previous lessons by using the main topics of the sections of the book to determine the main topic for the whole book. Okay? So let's get started on our fluency. So let me share my screen with you. Okay, so let me get this up so you guys can see it. So handout 15A. So what element of fluency are we working on here? We're wanting to be able to read it without mistakes, correct? Right. So we need to read it without mistakes and slowly and steadily. Seahorse, the shyest fish in the sea, Chris Butterworth. Seahorse has a head like a horse, a tail like a monkey, and a pouch like a kangaroo. Seahorse swims upright, moves himself through the water with the little fins on his head and the larger ones on his back. Now, let's look at this. We've got a few words here that I want us to look. Like pouch. What is a pouch? It says, and a pouch like a kangaroo. Oh, it's like a little pocket that like a baby sits in. Huh, okay. So a seahorse has one of those. Actually, the male has the pouch. And it says upright. What does upright mean? That means you're standing up, right? That means you're up. And then you've got through. He moves himself through the water. What does that mean, through? Like going in and out of the water, like he's swimming. Good. And himself, meaning he's talking about himself. So himself is the seahorse. So the seahorse has a head like a horse, okay, a tail like a monkey, so it's curved, and has a pouch like a kangaroo, and he's upright, and he moves through the water using a little fin on his head and a larger one on his back. It's kind of got some unique features, doesn't he? Yes, he does. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that. Back to me. Okay, so by figuring out how the Seahorse book is organized, we've been able to learn about unique features of seahorses. And remember, unique means not like anything else. It's one of a kind. So I want you to think about this. What are some of the unique features of seahorses? Well, I know, because we just read that fluency sheet, I know that they have a head like a horse. They have a tail like a monkey. And they have a pouch like a kangaroo, right? Good. Okay. So I want you to be thinking about how seahorses use those unique features as you figure out the main topic of the whole text. All right? So what I would like to do is, before we get busy on trying to identify the main topic of the text, I want us to reread the story again, and then we can dig right into our lesson, okay? So, seahorse, shyest fish in the sea. And we've talked about shyest already. Shyest meaning that he doesn't like to be around others. In the warm ocean among the waving seagrass meadows, an eye like a small black bead is watching the fish by. Who does it belong to? Seahorse, one of the shyest fish in the sea. Seahorse has a head like a horse, a tail like a monkey, and a pouch like a kangaroo. This one is a Barber seahorse. He has tiny prickles down his back like a dragon. He may not look like a fish, that's what he is. Seahorse swims up. He moves himself through the water with the little fin on his head and the larger one on his back. And did you know for a long time, no one was sure what kind of animal the seahorse was? Its scientific name is hippocampus, which means horse-like sea monster. He can only swim slowly, so if a hungry snapper cruises by looking for a snack, Seahorse does something very clever. He holds still and changes colors. Now you see him until he's almost invisible. Now you don't. Seahorses have hard bony ridges all down their bodies. Not many other creatures eat seahorses, probably because they're just too difficult to swallow. The way seahorses change the color of their skin to blend in with their surroundings is called camouflage. Every day at sunrise, Seahorse swims slowly to meet his mate. They twist their tails together and twirl gently around, changing color until they match. Seahorses are faithful to one mate and often pair up for life. Today, Seahorse's mate is full of ripe eggs. The two of them dance till sunset, and then she puts her eggs into his pouch. Barber seahorses mate every few weeks during the breeding season. Only the male seahorse has a pouch, and only the female seahorse can grow eggs. Seahorse sways about to get the eggs settled in, then seals his pouch shut tight. Seahorses are the only male fish to get pregnant like this. They're young inside their bodies.
At this time, we are on soft lockdown.
Safe inside, the dots in the eggs begin to grow into baby seahorses. They break out of their eggs and keep on growing, everyone with a head like a tiny horse and a tail like a tiny monkey. A few weeks later, the horse finds a quiet place to hide among the corals. It's time for the baby to be born. He works hard all day and through the night, bending, squeezing, and pushing, shooting hundreds of babies out of his pouch. Barber seahorses can have 200 or 300 babies at one time. They swirl around him in the water like smoke. One or two of the babies hang on to Dad's nose for a while. It's the first and biggest thing they've seen. A tiny new seahorse is a perfect copy of its parents and is ready for life on its own as soon as it's born. But when they let go, they are so tiny and light that the current soon floats them away. This new seahorse is as long as your eyelash. Think about that, your eyelashes. But she can find her own food right away. Her eyes move separately from each other. One can peer up while the other one looks down. So she can spot food coming from any direction. With one quick slurp, she sucks her catch into the end of her snout and swallows it whole. Seahorses don't have teeth. Horses live on plankton, tiny creatures that float along with the current. When she is big enough, seahorses curl up her tail and sinks to the seabed. She is safer here. Her camouflage protects her, and if a storm scoops the sea into huge waves or passing boats send currents sweeping by, there are plenty of things to hang on to. Seahorses cannot live where the currents are strong, or they would be swept away. Seahorses have prehensile tails, which means they can grasp things tightly with them. Now, to drop lower in the water, seahorses tuck their necks and roll their tails. To go higher in the water, they uncurl themselves until they're almost as straight as a pencil. When she's even bigger, Seahorse picks one patch of the reef as her home. She wraps her tail around a coral. This is her holdfast. Wherever she goes, she'll come back to this holdfast. Male barber seahorses range only a few square yards. The female's range is twice as big or even bigger. In a few months, this little seahorse will be ready to mate. She'll spend the rest of her life on the reef, watching for food, meeting her mate, and trying to stay almost invisible. Barber seahorses can mate by the age of 6 months and are fully grown at a year. Who's that peering from the coral? Shh, she's a seahorse. Okay, now, with that being read, let's get started about looking for the main topic of this text. All right, so what information did we talk about in the last lesson? Do you remember? Well, did we talk about how seahorses can use camouflage to hide from other fish? Yeah. Did we talk about them holding on to things with their tails? Yes. We talked about them hiding. We sure did. Okay. Well, in all that reading and everything, how did we figure out the main topic for each section? Do you remember what we did? Did we use buttons and boxes? Well, I used pom-poms and a plastic container, and you probably used the paper that I gave you and you just pointed to it, right? Okay. Well, how do you think we determine the main topic of a whole book then? Can we think about all the information that we've learned from the book so far? We can also think about all the different sections of the book. And we can also see what the main topics of each section have in common, right? Okay. Now remember, main topics of the smaller sections combine to support the main topic of the book. So let's look at our main topics behind me from the seahorse. And I want you to echo read with me the main topics here. On pages 10 through 11, we have seahorses. Let me get bigger for you. We have seahorses use their bodies to avoid being eaten. Can you repeat that with me? Seahorses use their bodies to avoid being eaten. Would you want to eat something hard and bony? I don't think I would. I'd probably spit it back out. On 12 through 17, seahorses mate and give birth to baby seahorses. So repeat that. Seahorses mate and give birth to baby seahorses. Who gives birth to the baby seahorses? The male does. The female carries the eggs, but the male has the babies. On 20 through 24, baby seahorses have ways to survive as soon as they are born. Repeat that with me. Baby seahorses have ways to survive as soon as they are born. Now, how long is a baby seahorse when they're born? It's as long as your eyelash, right? And to think about it, they know how to survive as soon as they are born. They start eating, don't they? They sure do. And they go out and find a holdfast for them to live and come back to. Wow. So these are our main topics out of the book. All right. So what do these main topics have in common? What do all these main topics have in common? Well, they use their bodies to avoid being eaten. They give birth to baby seahorses, and then baby seahorses have ways to survive. Well, it does give us some interesting things about seahorses. And it does tell us a little bit about how seahorses live, right? Okay. So do you think a main topic for the whole text would be seahorses use their unique features to survive and reproduce? Okay, so let me write that on the board so you can see that. Let me mark it over here. Seahorses use their unique features to survive and reproduce. There you go. Seahorses use their unique features to survive and reproduce. That would be a great main topic for our text. Great job. Now remember, survive means to keep living, okay? And reproduce means to make new creatures like themselves. All right, so I am going to show something over here in the book. All right, so I want you to look at this illustration there. Okay, and it shows the seahorse right there in the first one. To drop lower in the water, seahorses tuck their necks and roll up their tails. And then in this one, it says to rise higher, they uncurl themselves and they straighten out like a pencil, right? Okay, so this illustration shows us how seahorses' tails can curl up to go down and they uncurl to go up, right? Okay, so do you think adding that illustration there is a good idea? It is, isn't it? Because it shows us what happens when a seahorse curls his tail and when he uncurls his tail. And that's very important, isn't it? That's a very important feature of the seahorse. So in this writing, it was an important feature to add to the text to show us this. It gave us some information. All right, so let's think about this. It says to display an illustration of a seahorse. Well, I am going to draw you a seahorse. How about that? So let's look at my seahorse. I am going to move some things around here. All right, my little seahorse. Okay, well, that looks something like a seahorse, okay? Because I know you guys can do so much better. But what I want to point out on my seahorse is the tail. This right here is the tail that looks like a monkey tail, remember? Okay, so what can we learn about the seahorse's tail from this illustration? Well, it can hold on to things, correct? Yes. And it is curved, right? Yes. And it does have sections on it. I just did not draw those. I just drew the outline of this. But remember, in your illustrations, when you draw a seahorse, you can draw all the details out. I just drew the outside of it out. But later on in another lesson, you will draw a seahorse on your own, okay? So what I would like to do now is I would like to work on adding or actually looking at some features, some seahorse features. Let me get my charts here. So this is a seahorse feature organizer. All right, and I've got 3 different charts, 3 different ones that I want us to look at. Here's the first one. Move this one over. Put the other one up. And I put 2 on one. Lose a lot of paper. Okay. Make it a little bigger here. Okay. So if you notice here, these are details from the seahorse feature organizer. All right. And I would like to read each organizer aloud. Okay. So the first one we're going to look at is the tail. The tail. The tail twists tails together with a mate. The tail can curl to down in the water. It can uncurl to rise up in the water, and it can hold on to things. That's what a seahorse's tail can do. Now, let's look at the pouch. The female puts eggs in the male's pouch. The male seals the pouch, and males give birth to babies. That's the pouch. The eyes, they're like black beads. One eye can look up and one eye can look down. You can see food in any direction. Wow, those are some amazing features of seahorses, isn't it? So what we're going to be using these for is we're going to be thinking about these features because these are what we are going to use to help us write our story later on, our informative paragraph. Okay? We will use these later on. So do you think these details are important to add into our story? Yes, because those are true facts. All right, these are our facts that we're going to put in our informative writing. We will come up with our topic sentence and we will come up with our conclusion, but these are something that we need to think about. What do you want to put in your writing when we write our story? Okay, this would be something of your own paragraph. I will help with like the topic and the conclusion, but you get to choose, are you going to talk about the tail, the pouch, or the eyes? And you'll pick 2 sentences from either one of those, okay? So we're going to use this text feature chart to decide details next time, okay? So what is the main topic of the whole text? Remember, what was the main topic? It was seahorses use their unique features to survive and reproduce, right? Okay, so that's the main topic. Then you would have to come up with 2 details and then restate it. But we're not writing today, friends, okay? Not writing. Today is just looking at those details, looking at the information we have about the features of a seahorse. And it's very important for us to know that. Now, remember also that you are to be reading your fluency homework in the evenings to practice, okay? Let's see here. And I believe that is the end of our lesson today, guys. So I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye.